Today, I'm very privileged to be joined by Ginevra Adamoli. And I think I said that right. Yeah, well, almost. But everyone likes to call you Gin, right? And you kind of like that. So that's all
That's
good.
right.
It's all
It's
good.
like a necessity in the United States because nobody can pronounce it. So gin is like gin and tonic. It kind of, makes people laugh. And then they remember my name.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. So you are a digital customer experience strategy director with a digital consulting team at Epsilon, which has been bought by the Publicis Group. And they're the third largest PR company in the world, right? Publicis, yeah?
Yeah, advertising. Yeah, it's about 1 year ago they were acquired, and Epsilon, what they're famous for is anything that has to do with email management tools, as well as data, ID management, their ability to, collect all different type of data and then match it to an individual.
Super. So today we're going to talk about audience intelligence and, where that fits really into customer experience. And I know you've got quite a lot actually of experience in this arena already, certainly within social media as well. And yeah, I'm very interested in your opinion on that. So where do you want to start?
Yeah, I think we should start defining what it is audience intelligence, and then what is digital customer experience, and then how, they work together. So we know, of course, you have talked to different people, previous previous podcasts that you've done about audience intelligence, and I think it's important to define it because everyone has a different way of that definition and the application. So for us, for me specifically, audience intelligence has to do with how do you collect data and customer behavior and attributes that can help them and help clients to create connection and bonds with the customer across digital channels, right? So that there is a component of customer experience, which is this idea of interacting, customer brands interacting to make sure that they are providing this constant and continuous experience that will help customer to, make a purchase, for example, right? So we like to start, of course, within digital customer experience with an audience-centric approach, right? It's all about the audience. Let's try to understand them, what their needs are, how their needs are changing, and to make sure that we're providing the best, digital experience across different channels. So that's where audience intelligence comes in. Now, I do specialize in social media, right? So the idea of how do we collect information about the audience through social media networks. It could be a forums like TripAdvisor, it could be Facebook, it could also extend to mainstream media, right? It could extend to a specific blog post, as well as radio and TV, which is interesting, right? It's like the evolution of social media intelligence. And that's done, of course, through some tools, whether they are third-party tools or then proprietary, of course, to the Publicis Group, right? So I think for me, if you're okay with that, I think it's important to kind of talk about what is that process of collecting data, because that really determines what data you're able to collect when it comes to audience, and then how you're going to use it, right, for your strategy. And I'd like to talk about the limitations, because there is this idea that, we kind of talk about a social dilemma a little bit prior to the recording section. There is this idea that, oh, we can collect everyone's data, we know everything about everyone, but that's really not the case. It's not as simplistic as that. And that is very true to this idea of audience intelligence through social media. it's very depending who you talk to, whether you're talking to someone who specializes in social media or someone who actually specializes in analytics from, first party data, then you're going to get different answer to what is the validity of your audience intelligence through social media.
Right. Can I just stop you there? So
yeah,
for the listeners, what is first party data?
Yeah, so first party data is this idea that for every interaction of with your customer, a brand is able to track those action and events, and they get fed into their own perhaps data management tool. An example is I go on a website of the brand Chanel and I buy something. All that behavior is tracked. That is on data that is tracked, and it can be used to map a specific profile for me as a customer, okay? Which is very valuable because you know exactly who that individual is and the type of action that's been taken, right? So that's definitely essential for a brand to have. But what happens is, I like to talk about this example that all the first party data, it's great, it's transactional data. They tell you how much a person spent in which category, but they don't tell you why they bought a specific product, how they felt, about buying or even wearing, I don't know, a Chanel bag. That information, which sometimes it's referred to soft data, it's what's powered actually by social media data, right? So that goes back to, again, this idea of audience intelligence and how do we collect information that can inform your content strategy, right? Your engagement acquisition strategy, supplementing your first party data. So I would never say, oh, only do social media, right? I would say validate or add, complement the data that you already have about your customer.
Right.
To make sure that your personalization in your emails, for example, will be spot on.
Right. But so what you're saying is that, let me understand, right, a bit more. So are you saying that there is not really a way to actually match those things up properly? Is that what you're trying to get to? Because I know, like, we talked a little bit about the social dilemma, and on the next podcast interview I'm going to be talking about that with Tim Hughes, right? So, and he's big into social selling and all this kind of stuff too, right? But the thing is that because of regulation, right, they can't actually follow you, or maybe they can in some areas. How does that actually tie together?
Okay, so I'm gonna break this in maybe in two areas. From a technical perspective, if you are a programmer, if you're a coder, engineer, yes, you could do that. We used to be able to do it before, the Facebook scandal. However, because of GDPR regulation, the CCPA in California, it's not possible. So you can't match social media data of a customer consumer to a specific individual that is part of your customer database. Yeah, I mean, it's not legal. I mean, again, technically, yes, you could do it, but it's, you should not be doing it.
Right.
At least to my knowledge, at least with the tools that I've seen.
Okay. That's very interesting. So then that means that you're basically building personas again, as we've done for a long time, right? So you're basically segmenting the audience based upon their interests, based upon what they're saying online, and then and then you're in essence you're matching these first party and second party data sources together to give you insights, which then will give the brand easier communications to who they think matches a client. How do I put this? A possible client persona, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the information coming from the social media tools, it's at aggregated level again, so it's not at an individual level. So when we talk about matching, I think we need to be careful what we mean by, matching to our own first party data. But I'll give an example. There are different ways that we can get audience insights from social media tools. Okay, and there are different tools, Sprinkler, Synthesio, like, whatever, you have, the usually brand watch, they do have some, profile on our audience built in. It's definitely growing to be. I would say that just be careful, be aware of the limitation of these tools. Twitter is known to pass a lot of data that has to do with audience, demographic, interest, affinity. But LinkedIn, for example, close all their API. So be aware if a tool, tells you, oh, we can do it all and we do audience insight. Now, I come from academia, and I'll say that with everything, it's okay to have limitation. It's normal. It doesn't mean that you're not gonna get good insights, and that's why it's important that you integrate this insight with other data that you have, other data sources, whether it's search, whether it's on party. That's where you're gonna get your 360 view of your audience. So the process is that all these tools, and I don't know if I get too technical now, but all these tools work in a way that you need to set up key terms. You need to tell the tool what you want to listen to, what you want to track, and that needs to be in alignment with the question that you're trying to answer for the client. So if you want to try to get to the audience insight, you need to start thinking, what are these terms that will make me understand if someone is actually talking about them, right? Mom, right? We are able to track if people are using this term in their bio, right? Or you could say, I'm a mom. I will be a mom. So literally you have to insert, I will be a mom or I'm a mom. Anything that indicates whether you can segment someone into an audience. So those are tricks that you can use. And then you can layer into a behavior, right? I'm expecting, a baby or so on. So I just wanted to make it clear of what audience intelligence is and the capability within social media, because it's different from, again, I own all this customer data. I know, who they are, where they live. That
completely. It's much more valuable, right? In essence, owning the customer data, because you've got a transaction data. But then,
yes.
if you can put them, if you can take that, you can also take the. Let me see. How do I put this? You can take what people write in their bios and what they actually talk about, and you can put them into a segment. But you can also take what they talk about as a separate kind of listening tool, right? But you need to be very careful that you're filtering out the wrong words. I mean, this is the big problem: is people get stuck and they have all this data and they don't know what to actually type into the tool, like brand watch. I mean, if you don't set up a query properly in there, you get stuck with all this information that's complete wasting your time, right? And you export it into a spreadsheet, like everyone seems to do. They still export these things into a spreadsheet, right?
I hope not.
Well, they do. People do.
No, that's true.
And then they go and look at all these social media handles and say, oh, and they pull these insights out when actually they're not really doing it right,
Yeah, you bring actually a really good point, because it's a challenge that, I strive to say that you need to really find someone, whether it's an agency or it could be in-house, that is not just gonna like download the spreadsheet, that actually understand how marketing works, how the customer journey works, and then is able to really dive into the data and quantify that data